If you're a fan of the Ys series or just love action JRPGs, then this one might have your name written all over it. Today we're breaking down the gameplay and visuals of Ys X Nordic Demo for Steam to see if it lives up to the excitement. Is this new title worth diving into, or should you just save your time? Let's break down everything you need to know to decide if this is going to be your next JRPG that is a must play. What's up, Chaotic fam? It's your host KSETV here, and if you're new here, then this is your chill spot for all things RPGs news, reviews, and as well as guides. And today we're diving into the world of Ys X Nordic, or Ys 10, so to speak. This is the 10th mainline entry. We're going to be focusing on the gameplay and story of this demo that released on Steam's Next Fest. Now, yes, I am aware that this is just a PC release since it actually came out over in Japan last year, so let's hop right in. The Ys series has been around for a very long time, almost 40 years at this point, and follows the main protagonist of the series, Adol. And this time around, we continue his journey in a Norse kingdom setting, but with Ys 10 Nordic being the new recent adventure in this JRPG timeline, the world gets to enjoy the 10th mainline entry to the series. So Ys 10 Nordics was developed by Nihon Falcom and released for the PS4, PS5, and as well as the Nintendo Switch in Japan last year, September 28th. Almost a year later, we get the global release, specifically for us over here in the West, gets the release worldwide on all 4 platforms by Ys America, localized in as well as English and French on October 25th, 2024. So as of yesterday, as of me recording this video. Before we jump into the gameplay, we must understand a bit of what's actually going on in the story. So the story is a continuation of Adolf's story of adventure as the game takes place between Ys 2, Ancient Ys Vanished, the final chapter, and as well as Ys Memories of Salceda. With that being said, we can now jump into my overall impressions of the Ys 10 Nordic demo, gameplay, and story. And of course, as soon as you boot up the game starts off with Adol and Dogi chilling on a ship setting off on a new adventure, and we get a sense that they both just left a previous adventure, hinting about Adol's time at Ys 2. We get to explore the ship, exploring and learning about the captain of our ship, but we find out that pirates are trying to take over the Adamus ship that we are currently in. Therefore, it is time to throw hands with some of the pirates that board the ship. Now, the combat is actually really fun, but at this point, we don't really see the combat truly shine till you're about an hour or so into the demo. Therefore, right now, we have the bare bone basics of combat, which is just very simple actions like dodging, guarding, and of course, attacking as well. Now, I will say in hindsight, this moment of combat, you can tell the combat was definitely missing something. Like, it definitely felt off. Now, like I said, that is in hindsight because of what I would tell you guys later, but we do end up fighting off 3 mini bosses before we end up fighting the leader of their group. Now, Adol does manage to save the crew on the ship, except the captain, and that's because we find out that the pirates are basically the sea police for this given area, which is the Obalian Gulfs. But they end up killing the captain because my man's decided to not pay taxes, and then went as far as to hiring mercenaries to protect his ass on his ship, so which didn't really help his case when he tried to talk himself out of it. So we watch him get clapped, and in the process, before we watch him get clapped, we actually end up going up against, you know, that tutorial boss fight, which was pretty simple. Nothing too crazy about that boss fight. It was like, there's going to be more later for that fight, right? But once everything has all shipped and sailed, they notice that Adol and the company has no actual business or any affiliation with the captain. So they end up sparing their lives and realize that they're chilled. They have nothing to do with this. These are just innocent bystanders. So after the fact, we arrive at Rustferry and we get quite acquainted with the townsfolk, and we end up getting to control some of Adol's conversations by choosing dialogue options for him to respond to the rest of the characters. And most of the responses are actually pretty funny, especially later on when we team up with the warrior princess who we fought on the ship, and there are some options to have you playfully flirt with her. As we explore the town and get a bit of better feel of the control system, we come across the beach area and we notice a voice is speaking from a distance, and dog, it's the magic conch shell from SpongeBob, bro. I, that's the first thing that popped in my head when I saw this conch talking on the beach. I was like, bro. But Adol ends up picking up the conch, and this mysterious woman who is speaking from the conch instills Adol with mana to allow us to defeat the wolf that could not die from regular means. But we come across our next feature, which is the skill menu, which basically is a very simple basic special actions that our characters can perform utilizing mana. So we meet back up with the pirate queen, and she wants her ones back due to her not liking the work I put on her in the tutorial. But the fight was pretty short, so we run in that round 2 back, baby. Therefore, after clapping them cheeks, we learn more information about how mana works in this world. But we do get attacked by wolves again. Therefore, we learn that missing thing, that itch that I was having and trying to understand what was happening when I was in the tutorial. And of course, they call it duo mode, which allows us, the players, to control both characters while attacking and as well as defending at the exact same time. This game feels the combat feels a lot better once she joins up with you. And I think that was a missing piece I felt that it needed back when the tutorial, but it makes sense. You know, this is all story. It's adding up to things, right? I do love how the AI works on the characters that you're not controlling. Really feels like you're playing with 2 people or having co-op, which this game does have co-op, but the AI is just very smart. I've played a lot of games in the past where the AI is not that smart, and it's one of those like when you're playing with her, she can actually go out and attack enemies. Is like, oh, we're actually doing double duty until it's time for me to like click, you know, the right trigger, bring us together, and now boom, we're actually knocking out enemies together as a team, dealing double the damage. But I did notice that the combat plays almost like a rock paper scissors system, so certain enemies could do a power attack that can only be handled if you block it just in time. It will act as a parry and allow you to do a team riposte. Essentially, the game does a great job of reinforcing what the player learns in the tutorial bits and giving you opportunities to really practice and hone whatever the mechanic of the game is trying to teach you. One would think, people who are each other's throat, how do you create a situation to have them team up with each other? And this introduces us to the main story beat of this game, which is the magic enhanced handcuffs tying our warrior princess Karja and Adol together, but they can't be away from each other for less than 3 to 5 feet or so, which ends up creating this quite interesting dynamic between the two and forces them to be friends with each other's, or in this case, brothers in arms to be exact, which goes back to my earlier point that it's really funny and cute that you could playfully flirt with Karja with certain dialogue options that you'll see throughout the demo. We do actually get to explore some of the overworld as well, and we must take on the wolves that were just currently attacking the citizens. And keep in mind, these are still the same wolves that can only be killed through utilizing mana. So they send us out, and we learn that these wolves are known as Grieger, a specific monster that can be resurrected after being slain unless by mana. Now we end up coming across our very first dungeon that is inside of a lighthouse at the end of this strip of the mission. And in this dungeon, you can actually swap who you want to play with, Karja or Adol. Now, this swapping feature plays into the fact of there's going to be particular things that would need to be done with each of the characters, but I'll get to that a little later. But we also get a new tool, which is the mana string, which allows us to be our best Spider-Man impression, therefore allowing us to swing across caves and even pull our enemies to us. Now that we have Karja that is now added to the party at this point, the game informs us that the red power attacks that we saw before cannot be parried. And it's so fucking satisfying, dog. I love parrying in games. The dopamine hit that I receive is just chef's kiss. The dungeon is rather simple though to get through, and we get to fight the final boss of the dungeon, but we get to attack with this cool ass anime team ultimate attack. The dungeon in the lighthouse was a piece of cake, and it shows how the dungeon system works for the rest of the game, or more like that we see the formula for Ys X Nordics. But we find out that the island has been attacked by a clan of Grieger, therefore this fine as hell Grieger woman attacked the island, and goddamn, I was down bad. I'm sorry. She was fine as hell. I was like, dog, what can I do? And sometimes, somebody will like, I can fix her. It's fine. I can attempt. You know, she can step on me. It's fine. But moving on, this sets us up for another boss fight. And her boss fight is not a full blown fight, but she, of course, has armor. And every boss has an armor to them. And in order for you to really deal much damage to the armor that they currently have, you must spam the team mana attacks to really dwindle that armor down. She's not too difficult, as most of her attacks are quite dodgeable. I think it can become a problem due to the ads that are currently in her room with her. After dealing half of her health, though, she absolutely is pissed. Absolutely pissed at Karja, especially when Karja threw the hammer at her face and actually got a cut on her, because she realized that she was not healing, and she knew that these two would become a problem. But in the process of her having this conundrum, Adol begins to space out, which sets up another subplot of the game. We find ourselves in a brand new world. Now, I do believe this is all happening inside of Adol's mind for a split second. But the old man, there's an old man who lives on this island that we somehow get transported to. And he explains that this island is currently on a map, but is also not on a map. It seems like it's a limbo period between people who are mana users, and only certain people you get to actually come to this area or remember that they are in this area. But we can't question him for too long because of two things. One, he has amnesia, so he forgot a lot of things and cannot remember them. And of course, the mana calls us back to come to the real world to be able to take care of things. So we can only go into these given areas every so often when the story calls for it. But once Adol is called back by the mana to come back to the current situation we are in with the Grieger woman, we gain a brand new skill for team attacks. And with that skill, we also get chased by a giant monster. And bro, that was the coolest chase sequence I've seen in a JRPG. Like, it was definitely cool. Like, of course, it wasn't nothing like super crazy or whatever, but I just love when games really give you that high intensity like action scenes like right off the jump, and it's really cool that. But when we actually end up escaping, we leave the island on a boat, and bro, we get to drive the ship. Bro, I'm over here like, let me drive the boat, you know, let me hit on the boat, bro. But we also get naval combat, which, you know, in 2024, when Skull and Bones when Skull and Bones was absolutely atrocious, this naval combat is a lot better than Skull and Bones because we get to board ships. Don't even get me started, but I will continue. So with the ships, you get two attacks, which is a slow-moving cannonball that does just overall base damage and can slow down ships from coming your way, while you also get a volley attack, which is practically a one-shot to any ship that it comes across. Now, the situation has gotten even worse because we thought we escaped the Grieger, but nah, these motherfuckers are hauling absolute ass right now and chasing us down, and we get to meet the coolest person in this demo. Like, it literally felt like I was watching a goddamn anime when this man pulled up, but it was Karja's dad, and he is the leader of their particular clan that they're in. But bro, Karja's dad is a fucking beast, bro. This man single-handedly destroyed a ship just by crashing out. And it's one of those things, like, some people would not think that it's super impressive, but from the way he just went about it, showed like that probably held a lot more impact, and not every person can do something of that nature. So it kind of makes him a one of a kind of that type of power that he has. Now, after escaping the main island that we were on, that raid that they attempted to, we meet up with the rest of the Normans, and we must prove to Karja that we can protect her, which is basically a tradition that the Normans do. But we finally get to the equipment side of things. So you can also swap out your equipment. You can buy new swords, you can buy new armor. You can also upgrade your ship's attack power, the speed, and as well as the defense. The game does offer another mechanic which acts as a skill tree, which the skill tree is a very simple thing. It's basically you obtain particular mana seeds throughout your adventure, which is essentially a way to unlock new power for each character. The more skill points you have can unlock new power, and once you insert the mana seeds into each skill point, that allows your character to obtain different attributes of your character. But at this point in the game, enemies can now glow a blue aura, which basically means that they can only be dodged and not guarded. So this is where that rock, paper, scissors part comes into play, because now you need to pay attention to the battlefield and see, I need to parry that, or parry or block that, or I need to be able to just outright dodge this. Because the one thing about this combat, you don't really need to dodge, so to speak. And I think the only time you really should be dodging is when they blue, or when the enemy glows blue, and then you dodge. But just regular attacks, you can honestly just block right through it, or just spam your attacks right through it. So we also learned that a new move, which is called the Mana Burst. Now, Adol can be able to use fire mana, and Karja can be able to use ice mana to do specific types of moves. Now, the game gives you time to actually practice these new powers. Like Karja can use ice mana and water to create a block of ice that can actually raise them to a higher levels to help, you know, with overall exploration of these dungeons. And Adol can actually burn down trees that are blocking the path throughout the dungeons. So this goes back into being able to swap between characters to allow you to excel in these dungeons. But we eventually reach our next boss fight, which is a water salamander, and he casts a speed attack that can only be dodged, of course, like we were just talking about. But we must avoid the bubbles and the thorns that can be burned with Ada's mana burst, which is a simple fight. Towards the end of the cave, we find a rune that has saga stored in it, which is another big major plot point. So it seems like these are stories that are carried on from the past, and they're just stored in a big ass rune. And when the process of us looking at this, we actually end up fighting that giant that chased us. Come to find out, that giant was actually turned in, that human was turned into the giant, and that was our boy Dogi. So when the island was attacked, all of the citizens basically went missing in like one fell swoop, and we find out that the Grieger are turning humans into their race, the Griegers. And the first person we find out with is our boy Dogi by defeating E.G., the person that they took care of. In the process of us getting our talks through and we were checking on Dogi, we actually end up meeting another humanoid Grieger named Eoger. He's pretty fucking hilarious, because he literally is only keeping us alive so we can make a better story for him to read before he comes back to kill us. So with that being said, Ys X Nordic is a blast to play and definitely a journey to go on. I did beat the demo in 4.5 hours, but in that time, I've come to enjoy the combat, and the visuals look amazing. Makes it feel like I'm watching an anime, really. It just looks so pretty, especially when the camera shots and cut scenes really pan at the water and the forest area. Even with each area you go on, it really is pop. It's appealing and it looks great. The vibrant colors of the towns is also very beautiful. The soundtrack is fucking fire. Gets me hyped every time I enter battle, or even just chilling and exploring. The voice acting also pairs very well with each character. Ys X has some other features like building relationships with everyone, very similar to Social Links in the Persona series. The ship battles are also very fun, especially when you get to board the enemy ships to take it over. And then for faster travels on missions, you could even use a surfboard that uses mana to ride places. I do highly recommend checking out Ys X, as it released on Steam as of October 25th at a price of $60. If you enjoyed today's episode, then definitely drop a like. It helps out a lot. And subscribe to the channel for more RPGs, news, reviews, and as well as guides. As well as stay safe out there. And it's been your host, KISD TV, here at Chaotic Inc., signing out. Peace.